Hey, this is Josh from Guitar.com. We're here at NAMM 2020 with Taylor Guitars master guitar designer Andy Powers, and we're here to talk about the Taylor 618E, which is a very different kind of guitar for what we'd normally expect for Taylor to do visually, at least.
Yeah, this is it's our largest body design. Now, a number of years ago, I designed this shape, and at the time, I was thinking of it as the ultra touch sensitive, almost the fingerstyle player's jumbo guitar. You know, for years we had built a pretty classic jumbo shape instrument, and we wanted to expand what that was into something a little more broadly appealing. Now, as the last couple of years have gone, we start to introduce the V-class bracing architecture into a lot of the different body shapes that we're making. We took a fresh look at the GO guitars, what we call the Grand Orchestra. And that instrument in particular, because it has such a massive presence, we wanted to make this a very bold, dynamic, powerful instrument. It does that very, very well. And in this case, using the V-class architecture, we can build something that retains some touch sensitivity that offers a huge dynamic voice.
Yeah, it certainly seems to have that massive projection, that sort of cannon-like thing that you associate with like really sort of those big boomy acoustic guitars, but it still has that feel and that presence to it.
Yeah, and somewhat like our Grand Pacific guitar that we introduced last year, I don't particularly like a guitar with an overly, I guess I'd call it like a woofy low end, something where it feels like it's swallowing the sound. I want clear power on the low end. I want it to feel like it's got a lot of horsepower, but I still want to hear the notes I'm playing. So we took some of that kind of that sonic profile that we had built into the Grand Orchestra and adapted that into the even larger bodied Grand Orchestra guitar. This particular one is a 618, which means it has maple, big leaf maple on the back and sides with a Sitka top, and has a really beautiful characteristic, whether you're a heavy-handed strummer or a real dynamic physical player who wants a powerful instrument. This is where you should be looking.
That's such a sort of different like wood choice for Taylor as well. You know, people wouldn't normally associate you guys with kind of maple-backed acoustic guitars. Kind of was that choice kind of take a while to get to, or was it just sort of like the natural thing to do?
Well, in this case, I'm a big fan of maple. You know, part of what we've been trying to do in the last several years is popularize that as a tone wood, because moving forward, the maple forestry model is a really healthy one. We have a good friend in Steve McMinn and Pacific Rim Tonewoods who's actually propagating and isolating instrument-grade specific maple trees for future generations of instruments. So that's something that we want to bring into a lot of players' consciousness and let them be aware that you could build an amazing sounding guitar out of a wood like big leaf maple.
Obviously, the whole conservation aspect and using kind of woods that people aren't necessarily kind of familiar with or sort of comfortable with, I guess, traditionally for acoustic guitars is such a huge part of what Taylor's brand has become about. Kind of, is that sort of, obviously that's the way that you guys are looking to the future and trying to sort of maintain and ensure that guitars can still be built in generations to come.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at far into the future, look 100 years into the future, I can't tell you what a computer will look like or even if it'll exist at all, but I can tell you that people are going to want to play music. We're going to want that direct experience. That's part of our human existence. You know, so we look at these instruments and think, well, in 100 years' time, I want to be building great instruments. I want to be building them out of woods, but I also want those forests to be in better condition than the way I found them. So that's what a lot of our efforts are going towards these days, is building instruments that encourage creative musicians to make their artwork, but do it in a way where it leaves every resource in better condition than the way we found it.
I guess kind of guitars like this are sort of part of your sort of, you know, you're basically kind of laying the groundwork for that sort of stuff to come to fruition many decades to come.
Yeah, exactly. So with that said, I mean, whether it was the Koa project or maple or ebony or even the new urban ash, the chamois ash that we're introducing on the 324 Builders Edition, where that material is sourced from city trees that were taken out once they became too big and were a hazard to people around them, and they're being replanted with younger versions to see the benefit all over again. And any one of those things, it paints a lot of hope for a kind of a brighter future as we see it.
I think that's probably a lovely place to leave it. Andy, thank you
Fair
very
enough.
much. I've been Josh for Guitar.com here at NAMM 2020.